All right, we're live from Troy City Council chambers. It's Thursday night live.
You are.
Welcome to the Public Utilities Committee meeting. It's January 24th, 2019 at 5 p.m. and 5:35 p.m. we'll be starting. And I was reading from the I'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Call to order. Councilmember Gully is here. Councilmember Cummings
Present.
is here. Council President Mantello is absent. And Councilmember Kennedy is here. And we also have present Councilmember McGrath and Chris Whalen, the Superintendent of the Water Department, of Public Utilities. And we will be discussing, well, first, before we discuss anything, we'll open up the floor to public forum, if anybody wants to speak. We'll close public forum, nobody wants to speak, and we will skip, we don't have any local laws, we don't have any ordinances, and we will discuss Resolution 9, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the Albany pool communities relating to the long-term financing plan. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, Chris, do I have a motion to bring the resolution?
Motion.
Councilmember Gully makes a motion.
Second.
And Councilmember Cummings seconds the motion. And Chris, can you give us an overview on the resolution?
Yes, I think as everybody knows, we're in this long-term control plan for the combined sewer overflows. What we have done is we've worked together with our other communities along the river to try to help increase or better the water quality within the river by reducing the overflows. So we've done a study on the river which determines where the most polluted CSOs were, and we're in a consent order with DEC to try to stop those overflows from occurring. Back when the city was originally formed, everything went to the river. It wasn't until the early 70s when they built the sewer plants that they put an interceptor line along the river that actually captured that. But as such, all the catch basins go to that same pipe. So we've overwhelmed the sewer plants at that time. So they're at the river, where the pipes meet at the river, there's a regulating chamber where typically the flow goes to the interceptor. And in times of wet weather, like right now, it actually has an overflow that goes to the Hudson so that we're not washing out the pump station or flooding homes if the pipe were to back up. So we signed the consent order in 2013. We started negotiating, or 2012, we started negotiating the consent order prior to that in 2009. So when we had to first do our first draft of the consent order to DEC, we had to put a list of projects in that consent order with start dates, end dates, estimated costs, how much flow that was going to take out of the river, out of the CSO. Our Troy's projects weren't in that, but Rensselaer and Cohoes had projects in that plan. We couldn't wait for a final consent order. We knew those projects were tied into the consent order no matter when it got signed. So Rensselaer went through and got funding through EFC. They had grant money for their project. They bonded for it themselves. Cohoes did the same thing. Now it's 2019, and we're looking back at how do we make them whole. The consortium we actually have an agreement. Everybody has a certain share. It's based on flow to the river, overflows to the river, population density, that sort of amount of CSOs. Troy's share is 34.76% of all the projects that are in that combined sewer overflow long-term control plan. These two projects just happened to be before the actual consent order was signed, and they had funding on their own, so they bonded for it. They can't release the debt to the city of Troy, or to Albany, or to whatever Leeds, or Green Island. So what we have to do is do this legislation, which is a financing intermunicipal agreement that allows Troy to pay our portion of our debt to that project. Since they bonded for it, they assume the debt. We can't assume their debt. All we can do is come up with an agreement where we pay the principal on it. So that's what this is for.
So Chris, is this agreement for the entire long-term control plan and all the projects included, or these are just the bonds that were taken out by Cahoes and Rensselaer for specific projects?
These are just for the bonds that goes and Rensselaer for the specific projects.
So we'll expect to see another agreement for the larger control plan, or this is just?
There are, the rest of the projects are included within the legislation that's already been passed for the combined sewer overflow. This is just different because each community bonded for it. We have no mechanism to pay off their debt. So this is pretty much Troy assuming our portion of their debt for this project under the consent order.
Jim,
Councilmember
so
Guller?
we're gonna make 34.76% of their payment,
Yes.
and we're gonna do it in bulk, or we're gonna do it, how does that gonna work?
The agreement states that we're gonna make them a payment every year to pay off their payment schedule. I'm not in favor of that. I don't want to be paying their debt for 30 years. So Andy and I have had a couple discussions. We haven't quite figured out how to do, not necessarily a lump sum, but something of a shorter term.
Split it in 10 years?
Something like that. But we can't put it into an escrow because then you have to worry about percentage rates and all that, and who takes that back. So there's going to be some calculations to it. It's going to be what we owe and not a penny more, but I don't want it to go 30 years.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Cummings?
Let's see. Oh, jeez. Actually,
All right, so if we pass this law, it moves on to the Finance Committee, and then it moves on to the regular council meeting in February 7th. And I don't have any other questions other than, so the payment schedule is pre-assigned, and he'll get us the final method or schedule of payments that the city will be making.
I think it's actually in the back. Their total debt assumption is actually in the legislation itself in that agreement.
So that's their debt
That's their
payments.
debt. Our portion of that is 34.76%.
Okay.
I think I wrote a couple emails I think in there, had that broken down of what our exact cost was for Rensselaer and what our cost was for Cahoes. But I'll firm that and I'll let everybody know prior to the council meeting.
And so the first payment is due in March, and is that due, are we paying it to the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, or it's directly to the municipality?
It's directly to the municipality. Since they have the debt, it has to be directly to them.
Chair. My question.
Councilmember
I
Cummings?
wanted to know how the funding from EFC plays into this as well as our other projects. They received grants from the EFC for these projects. Does that reduce, is our 37% share on the whole project cost, or on the project cost less EFC's funding?
On the project cost that was funded, not by the, so say a project was $1 million.
Right.
And they got a $100,000 grant. Now the project cost is $900,000.
Right.
That has to be split up by all communities.
And
We
so
do get
similarly, if
credit
we get an
for it.
EFC grant for one of our projects,
It gets divided up by.
what's left gets, or I guess the EFC grant in effect also gets divided up between them.
Yes, yep, the grant gets divided up along as the payments do also.
Uh,
Okay.
Yep,
Have a
thank you.
motion to pass?
Quick question.
Council President Mantello has arrived and she has the floor.
Beautiful. Chris, I did look over the backup, saw what we owe, saw that Rensselaer, Rensselaer and Coast are whole. No, Rensselaer and Green Island, correct?
This is for Rensselaer and Cohoes.
Okay. We received, and I apologize if I'm duplicating somebody's question, the $1.5 million grant from EFC that Councilmember Cummings mentioned. We received one from, what, 2015?
Received a lot of grants.
Right,
CSO program.
we received
Yeah.
1.5. Will that go toward the monies that we owe or no?
No, the grants we receive are for specific projects.
Ah,
So if we received a $1.5 million grant, it would be for whatever project that was designated to go to.
oh, okay, so we can't use
Every-
it for,
Correct.
So they got a grant on this project already. So
Yes.
some of it is already funded by EFC, but what's left?
And that's what the concern with this was. This project was done as we were negotiating the consent order, but knowing that it was going to be in the consent order, Rensselaer still had to move forward with the project. They had the funding for it. They had the grant money for it. And part of the reason it got in the consent order is we know they had the funding for it. We knew they had the grant for it, and it fit the bill and was going to work. So it kind of helped everybody all
Some
around.
of the credits towards
Yes,
what we needed to get done.
yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Alright. And we have another resolution.
By union.
we're gonna
We're
call
gonna
finance
special
before this, yeah,
next.
we'll call finance before the.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Councilmember Gully, motion to adjourn.
Second?
Councilmember Cummings, second, and the meeting is adjourned.
You couldn't put that on tonight, the second one?
The land trust.
The meeting is
no,
adjourned at
we
5:45.
got no legislation,
Oh,
nothing was written out. It's just easier, we'll do it
I
at
mean,
6.
It won't
That's
happen until February
Right,
anyway. 'cause
it
won't
can't
be a
happen
regular
until
meeting.
February because we can call special on 5-hour notice.
The grant application is due February 15th.
Yep.
So it was just a matter, I found out about it late last week and realized we needed the resolution. Tuesday I realized that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Nice.
Should we please stop that? We'll be back.